Hello hockey fans and welcome back to another video. Last Sunday, I released a video detailing why the Kontinental Hockey League is an absolute mess. After all, thanks to fan protests against their own club, major sponsors severing ties from their respective teams, and a pair of franchises withdrawing from the league, the KHL has clearly seen better days. However, to say that things have gotten even worse since my previous video went up would be quite the understatement. Whether it's their indefinite suspension from international competitions, losing hosting rights to one of the biggest tournaments of the year, business partners cancelling their contracts, or a mass exodus of foreign players, both the KHL and the entire Russian hockey program has experienced quite the fall from grace over the last few days. So what's happened to Russian hockey? What sanctions has it received, and how will they affect the nation's sporting programme moving forwards? Well, let's take a look at the numerous events of the past week and try to figure it out, shall we? So in today's video, join me as we explore why Russian hockey is an absolute mess. Let us begin by picking up right where we left off to see how things have gone from bad to worse over the last few days. My previous video concluded on February 27th, 2022, when Latvian side Dinamo Riga announced that it had withdrawn from the KHL in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This move came just 2 days after Finnish side Jokerit had also withdrawn from the league on February 25th, following public pressure from their fans, sponsors and the media. These withdrawals, coupled with the escalating conflict in Ukraine and the global response to the situation, presented a number of problems for the league, both in the short term and beyond, including whether the KHL's other non-Russian teams would also withdraw from the league, whether the KHL would be able to complete its 2022 Gagarin Cup playoffs, and the league's sizable loss of revenue from losing their only Finnish and Latvian-based franchises. Not only that, the situation raised concerns over whether foreign KHL players should remain in the country for the rest of the season, and whether or not Russia should lose hosting rights to several upcoming international competitions. So how have things escalated over the last few days, and how have they affected Russian hockey? Well, earlier this week, on Monday, February 28th, the Finnish Hockey Association released a statement demanding that both Russia and Belarus be completely excluded from international hockey activities due to each country's respective role in the current invasion of Ukraine. Not only that, the statement also mentioned that Finland hockey had no intention of playing games against either nation, and that they felt it wasn't possible for the two countries to participate in the upcoming Men's World Championships, which Finland are set to host in Helsinki and Tampere. Soon after, a number of hockey nations, including Switzerland, Latvia and Great Britain amongst several others, sent a letter to the International Ice Hockey Federation requesting that the federation place sanctions on the Russian and Belarusian hockey programs, while the Latvian Hockey Association revealed that they would not play any of their exhibition games against either country ahead of the upcoming World Championships this coming May. As the IIHF held meetings to discuss their response to the situation, later that same day on February 28th, it was announced that the Russian men's hockey team had been removed from the 2022 Euro Hockey Tour. The Euro Hockey Tour is a series of mid-season tournaments, which typically sees Russia, Finland, Sweden and Czechia play a series of exhibition-style games in preparation for an upcoming international competition, such as the World Championships or the Winter Olympics. The decision to remove Russia from the competition was reached via a unanimous vote from the tour's other 3 members, meaning that Russia won't participate in the Beijing Hockey Games in Sweden scheduled for early May. Instead, it is believed that a different national team shall be added to the tour, which shall be chosen based on the current IIHF rankings, meaning that either Switzerland or Germany will likely end up taking part instead. Once their meetings had concluded, and with the international hockey community demanding action, the IIHF finally made a decision. On February 28th, the International Ice Hockey Federation announced that they had banned all Russian and Belarusian national teams and clubs from competing internationally at every age level until further notice, including the upcoming 2022 World Junior Championships rescheduled for later this year. Not only that, the Federation also revealed that they had stripped Russia of hosting rights for the 2023 World Junior Championships set to be held in Novosibirsk and Omsk. In their statement announcing the news, IIHF President Luke Tardif said that the Federation, quote, strongly condemns the use of military force in Ukraine and urges the use of diplomatic means to solve conflict, while also stating that the IIHF, quote, has a duty of care to all of our members and participants. Though there was no mention as to whether Russia would also be stripped of hosting the 2023 World Championships in St. Petersburg, the IIHF are expected to move the tournament elsewhere, especially if the conflict continues over the coming weeks. The final notable event from this past Monday took place much later in the day, when a press release from the NHL revealed that they had suspended their agreements with their Russian business partnerships in response to the country's invasion of Ukraine. In this statement, the NHL announced that they were, quote, pausing their Russian language social and digital media sites, while also stating that they were, quote, discontinuing any consideration of Russia as a location for any future competitions involving the NHL. Not only that, the league also expressed that it was concerned about the well-being of its Russian players, saying they understood that, quote, they and their families are being placed in an extremely difficult position. At the time of this recording, there have been 60 Russians to have played in the NHL so far this season, with many of their family members still living back home in Russia while they play overseas. So in just a 24-hour time span, both Russia and Belarus had been suspended indefinitely from international play, had been ostracised from the global hockey community, and had just lost a number of commercial opportunities with their business partners across the world. And this is why you don't invade your neighbours, folks. Unfortunately for Russia though, the consequences of their actions weren't about to stop anytime soon. The day after their initial sanctions were announced on Tuesday, March 1st, Canadian hockey brand CCM revealed that they would no longer be using NHL superstar Alexander Ovechkin or any other Russian players in their future marketing endeavours. In their statement announcing the news, the company's chief executive said that although Mr. Ovechkin is not responsible for the Russian government's actions, we took the decision to not use him or any Russian player on any global CCM communication at this point. This news came after Ovechkin faced revived criticism for his close ties to the Russian government, as well as his role in creating Putin Team, a social media campaign supporting Russian President Vladimir Putin, which featured testimonies from several Russian NHL stars that Ovechkin personally recruited, including Evgeny Malkin, Ilya Kovalchuk and Pavel Bure. However, whilst CCM shall no longer use Russian athletes in their promotional material, it's unlikely that the company will attempt to terminate any of these contracts due to the legal ramifications of such a move. Hey, at least they're still getting paid, right? Though the Kontinental Hockey League had already faced its fair share of issues, and while the bulk of the attention had shifted towards Russian hockey as a whole, the KHL would soon face a mass exodus of its foreign players. On Tuesday, March 1st, it was revealed that a number of import players who were signed to Russian-based teams for the 21-22 KHL season had terminated their contracts with their respective clubs and had left the league behind, including Jeff Platt and Marcus Granlund from Salavat Yuleev, Andy Miel and Kenny Agostino from Torpedo, Nick Shaw from Sibir Novosibirsk, as well as Shane Prince from Avto Mobilist. Sure, a handful of players isn't going to make or break the league, but given that many of these skaters were some of the most productive players across the entire league this season, and given the sizable number of names that ended up following suit over the next few days, the league would end up taking a pretty sizable hit from these numerous departures, both in their on-ice product as well as their marketability. Speaking of the KHL, also on March 1st, the league's English and Russian Twitter accounts were forced to turn off comments on their post and block large numbers of users due to heavy and continuous backlash from fans. Since numerous accounts had begun spamming every single post with Ukrainian flag emojis and expressing choice words either towards the Russian government or its current invasion of Ukraine, only those profiles that the KHL account follows, or people who are tagged in each individual post, are now allowed to comment. Just for context, the English KHL account garners roughly 10 to 20 likes per post, but would easily receive 100 to 200 comments in comparison. Talk about a ratio, eh, folks? Not only that, both the English and the Russian accounts began losing hundreds of followers, either due to their mass blocking campaign or former fans wanting to distance themselves from the country's actions. Considering that the 2022 Gagarin Cup playoffs started the same day as all of this went down, it's not exactly the best way to kick off your postseason, is it? While the rest of March 1st would be relatively quiet, the following day would pick up right where it left off. On Wednesday, March 2nd, video game developer EA Sports announced that they would be removing Russian and Belarusian national teams and clubs from NHL 22, quote, within the coming weeks, following the IIHF suspension of both nations. Not only that, the Canadian Hockey League also announced that they would be cancelling the 2022 Canada-Russia series, whilst revealing that the format of the 2022 CHL import draft was still yet to be determined. According to hockey agent Dan Milstein, the CHL is rumoured to be considering barring Russian and Belarusian players from being selected at the draft due to the current situation. Whilst I can certainly understand the need to sanction both countries for their respective contributions to the ongoing conflict, I'm not sure punishing 16 and 17-year-old teenagers is gonna hit them where it hurts. But maybe that's just me. Though the majority of the sanctions that we have discussed so far seem to have had a greater impact on Russia than Belarus, the latter country's hockey programme would also take a sizable blow on March 2nd, as the IIHF announced that Belarusian side HC Gomel had been removed from the 2022 Continental Cup final. The Continental Cup is a yearly tournament featuring a number of mid-tier European club teams, with the winner typically earning a place at the Champions Hockey League alongside the best teams across the continent. Since Gomel had been removed from the competition, the remaining 3 teams elected to move forward with the competition and play out the final round without their Belarusian opponents. Seems like the most logical solution given the circumstances, right guys? As Wednesday turned to Thursday and the week reached its latter stages, Russian hockey would face several more setbacks, both on and off the ice. On March 3rd, 2022, sports betting platform DraftKings released a statement announcing that they would no longer offer betting on sports leagues and events in Russia and Belarus. While the statement specifically mentioned the KHL as a league they would no longer offer, DraftKings also stated that they have no direct commercial relationship with any Russian or Belarusian league, team or sports organisation. Another revenue stream for the KHL bites the dust. Not only that, later that same day, the International Paralympic Committee announced that Russian and Belarusian athletes would no longer be allowed to compete at the upcoming 2022 Paralympic Games, meaning that neither nation could take part in the Paralympic hockey competition. Though the committee had previously allowed these athletes to compete as neutrals under a Paralympic flag, due to safety concerns within the Paralympic Village, as well as threats from other countries to boycott the Games if either of these two countries competed, the committee was forced to reverse their decision and deny these athletes the chance to compete. Again, whilst I can certainly understand the need to punish Russia for its recent actions, denying a group of Paralympic athletes the opportunity to compete for something that they have spent the last 4 years of their lives training for seems a little bit cruel. After all, it's not as if they're the ones responsible for the current situation. Though the KHL had gone several days without another notable controversy, the league would find itself under the spotlight once more before the week was up. On Friday, March 4th, Russian sports site Championat revealed that another group of foreign KHL players had terminated their contracts with their respective teams and had withdrawn from the league, including Juha Metsälä, Timu Hartikainen, Sakari Manninen and Philip Larsson from Salavat Yuleev, Lucas Wallmark and Joachim Nordstrom from CSKA Moscow, as well as Jyrki Jokipaka and Harry Satiri from Sabir Novosibirsk, and Juho Olkinora from Metallurg Magnitogorsk. This list grew even more the following day, on Saturday, March 5th, as it was revealed that Franz Tuohima, Dan Sexton and Roland Knott from Neftahimik, as well as Vil Poca and Oliver Kaski from Avangard Omsk, had all terminated their contracts and had left their teams too. According to Championat's article announcing the news, 16 Finnish players were supposed to take part in the Gagarin Cup playoffs, but thanks to the sizable contingent of players that have terminated their deals and left the league over the last few days, there are only 8 Finnish players left in the KHL. Given the serious concerns that Tuohima expressed last video, and given that the current situation doesn't show any signs of getting better anytime soon, I'm not surprised that so many import players have decided to leave. I wouldn't want to play in a country that is actively invading its neighbour, would you? So where does all of this leave us? Well, as things stand right now at the time of this recording, Russian hockey is in a pretty terrible state. After all, the country can't compete in any international competitions until further notice. Their top foreign talent is leaving the country as fast as it can, and they have lost a number of lucrative contracts with a variety of business partners around the world. There isn't really much going for them, is there? Given that the situation in Ukraine shows no signs of stopping anytime soon, and given that the international community are equally committed to punishing Russia for their actions, I wouldn't be surprised if the sanctions placed on their country and the resulting consequences on their hockey program continue to be felt for quite some time, meaning that the country could still be affected by these punishments for many years to come. Not only that, if Russia decides to sever ties with the rest of the world and reject negotiations with the international community in retaliation to these actions, it's possible that we could see a similar sporting situation to that of the Soviet Union during the mid-20th century, in which Russian hockey players remain in their homeland and spend their pro careers in their domestic league whether they want to or not. Whilst this is clearly the worst case scenario, and it's unlikely that the current situation will ever reach such an extreme point, given the way that things have unfolded recently, and given their similarities to previous historical events, I don't think this outcome is entirely out of the question. After all, if Russia is severing ties with the rest of the world, why would they want their top hockey talent to ply their trade in North America? They barely tolerate KHL players leaving for the NHL at the best of times. While I understand the reasoning behind the vast majority of these punishments, and while I agree that something had to be done to discredit both the Russian hockey system as a whole and the questionable figures who run it, the people that will feel these punishments worst are the players themselves. Not only have they just lost the opportunity to compete on the international stage, and they have forfeited a number of sponsorship opportunities worldwide, Russian players could struggle to find the same opportunities that they were given before this situation arose, despite them playing little to no part in how these recent events have unfolded. Given that the various sanctions will affect the players far more than those in charge, it really does beg the question, should Russian athletes be punished for their government's actions? On the one hand, punishing players for the actions of their government seems somewhat unjustified, since the vast majority of these athletes didn't want any of the recent events to happen just as much as the rest of us. I don't know about you guys, but unless they have openly stated that they support their country's invasion of Ukraine, or they are demanding their government escalate things even further, it seems a little unfair to punish any player for what has happened over the last 2 weeks, nor should it impact their respective careers or their opportunities within the sport. Sure, the country's professional hockey players could have chosen to defy their government and spoken out against the current situation, despite the tremendous amount of pressure both on themselves and their families. But what about their junior players? Think of all the teenagers that have just lost their shot to showcase their talents at the World Juniors. They might never get drafted into the CHL, and they will never get to light it up during the Russia-Canada series. Why should these 16 and 17-year-olds be held accountable for the actions of their government? They're not even old enough to drink, let alone vote. On the flip side though, Russia has always taken great pride in their sporting programs and have made a concerted effort to produce the best hockey players in the world since the days of the Soviet Union. So if the international hockey community wants to get their attention, show that they are serious and hit them where it hurts the most, banning them from competing on the international stage and taking away their chance to prove whether or not they are the best hockey nation in the world is certainly going to hurt their pride and bruise their ego. Not only that, Russia makes a lot of money from sports, so if you take the sports away, you also take away a lot of the money too, causing further damage to their infrastructure within the sport, as well as their ability to fund their current invasion. Whilst Russian athletes may get caught in the middle of this, and while you can certainly understand their frustration, especially if they're against the current government, their situation is a whole lot better than what the Ukrainian people have had to go through for the last 2 weeks. To be honest, the entire situation is so complex and so nuanced that it's difficult to determine whether there is a clear right or wrong answer as to how the hockey community should respond. Do you punish the country's entire hockey program and let the athletes get caught in the middle, or do you protect the players but deliver empty punishments as a result? Whether you agree with one side or the other, here's hoping that the current events in Ukraine reach a peaceful conclusion as soon as possible, and the entire situation is over sooner rather than later. After all, it would be a real shame if careers were ruined and more lives were lost over such a pointless and unnecessary conflict. And that was a look at why Russian hockey is an absolute mess. What do you guys think about Russia's current hockey situation? Do you think that the punishments have been justified, or do you think that things will get even worse before they get better? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further, and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.